Hey there, friends. We're only a couple of days out from Election Day, and I wanted to put a video out kind of warning the middle to right-leaning people and any good people out there, even if you're voting for the other chick, to be careful. There are things happening, and there are things that our federal government is practicing on right now because they either think something is going to happen or they plan on something happening. I'm just floating that out there because, look, guys, anybody who has 100% faith and confidence in our federal government to do the right thing and having not staged anything in the past, if you really believe that narrative, you are a stubborn, ignorant idiot. And just being very honest with you, I think most of us will agree with that. Federal government does not look out for our best interest, and the federal government has plans. And when you or I disrupt those plans, they get a little upset. There's a video that came out last week. And this gentleman right here, one of you guys sent me the video. And I have watched the video over and over again. And I've kind of done some backtracking to find out that the actual content of the video is legitimate. And I'll show you those sources here in a minute. Unfortunately, I don't know who this man is. Speaking or listening to him speak on film, he's clearly in the DC area and is known around there. I don't know who he is. If anyone knows who he is, please send me his information and I will happily tag him and give him full video credit for this video. But I don't know who this guy is, but I am using his video because this is the only video that I can find regarding this exercise from last Sunday night. Now, this exercise is being conducted at the U.S. Capitol. Again, this was October 28th, just a week ago.
We have got helicopters coming to the U.S. Capitol. Probably Blackhawks, probably in the next 20 minutes or so. And I think they're going to land. Let's go check this out. It should be kind of cool. So over there you see all the fire trucks from the DC Foam Task Force. They're set up to cover any arrival. They moved the ambulances over here too. I guess that's a sign we're going to have aircraft actually landing. I don't know if I can go over there. Okay, guys, we're at the Library of Congress. We're expecting 12 helicopters to come in flights of 4. This should be pretty cool. They're going to land right over there. 2 on the House side, 2 on the Senate. And then they're going to evac some people, and then another set of 4 will come in. It should be pretty neat. And this is Eagle. Okay, we got 2 down on each side, 2 on the House, 2 on the Senate. These are muscle aircraft, U.S. Air Force Hueys, basically, used for VIP transport. But also, the muscles handle continuity of government operations. So having them as part of this exercise is, well, common sense, I guess.
According to the U.S. Capitol Police's own X account, and you can find this, the post is still up there right now if you guys want to go out there and confirm this, but they state that this is an exercise. And this was on that day, 6 days ago, as I'm recording this. This evening, the United States Capitol Police and our federal partners are conducting a routine training exercise on the grounds of the U.S. Capitol. Please do not be alarmed if you see emergency vehicles and low-flying helicopters. Well, we did. We saw a lot of helicopters from different agencies, federal, state, local agencies. We saw some Black Hawks in there. Should be from the federal government, I assume. Can't really see the marking on there. But a lot of touch and go type exercises. You see them coming in hot in some cases, doing some fast landings, and then they're staying there for a second and then taking off again. I noticed that some of them were operating with these high intensity spotlights. And obviously you're not using those high intensity spotlights to come in and land. That's when you're searching for something. So they were doing some landing exercises, some takeoff exercises, and some search exercises, all in the immediate proximity of and on the grounds of the U.S. Capitol on the Senate side and on the House side. So they were really doing some pretty hot exercises on this. I watched the whole thing. There's a lot of video out there. I'll play a bunch of it throughout this video so you can see the different angles and the different things. And again, big thanks to this gentleman who actually got this video. I'm sure there's other video out there like this, but this was the only one that I could find on X like this. Now, again, this all was announced just prior to this exercise from the U.S. Capitol Police on their X account, I believe on their Instagram account, as well as their Facebook page. So they were very clear about this. This was not some secretive exercise. Just want to make that very clear. I'm not saying that this was conducted and we don't know what was happening. We don't know what provoked this exercise, but they did advertise the exercise. Now, the thing that I found kind of peculiar was that just a few days prior to that, October 20th to be exact, the U.S. Capitol Police's same X account that I pulled the previous announcement from announced this exercise on Monday at approximately 10 a.m. We will have a campus-wide evacuation exercise. The routine drill is in coordination with our legislative branch partners. Expect temporary street closures to include Constitution Avenue, Independence Avenue, and D Street. This was an exercise performed at the same location 1 week prior to the helicopter exercise that was conducted at night. This exercise was conducted during the day, essentially covering all bases to make sure if they're doing any kind of an evacuation that they are planning for it under all circumstances. Now, it's very important that you understand that they're talking about an evacuation exercise. This obviously is extraction of people. Don't think this isn't somehow tied to the election. They act like it's a coincidence. It is not. And don't think that for some reason this is not provoked from the fake January 6th narrative that we continuously hear about, especially as we get closer to the election. I know we're only 2 or 3 days out right now, but you're going to hear hyped, ramped up rhetoric from the far left regarding January 6th, because that's the only thing they feel like they have any sticking power with Donald Trump, even though there's no real sticking power with that. Now, there was an article that came out regarding this U.S. Capitol Complex evacuation drill that was planned for that Monday. Again, this was the October 20th one that was planned. So again, they are notifying the general public about this, but it's odd timing coming a week and 2 weeks prior to the actual election. This is not an accident. This is not a coincidence in any kind of way. And I also found, linking this to some of the other things that the federal government is coming out with, let's remember, guys, the FBI right now is not on our side. And what I mean by that is I'm talking about the conservative side. The FBI has completely been weaponized. They were weaponized when Donald Trump got in there. That was one of my biggest criticisms of Donald Trump, is that he did not go in there and clean house in the FBI. He left a lot of these bad actors in there and felt like promoting some of the people who were brainwashed under Barack Obama. Those same elements remained in there, like Christopher Wray. I realize Donald Trump appointed Christopher Wray. Christopher Wray was already embedded in the FBI under the Obama administration, and Trump should have never promoted this man. He's simply taking the head fox in the hen house and moving him to the top of the food chain regarding the FBI. So this story came out just a couple of days ago after these two drills had already taken place. Ahead of Election Day, FBI finds itself in an awkward, challenging spot. Last week, during a world-renowned law enforcement conference in Boston, 2 FBI agents briefed dozens of police chiefs and sheriffs on the wide array of threats to government officials, poll workers, candidates, and voters that the FBI has been seeing in the days before next week's presidential election. The closed-door briefing described to ABC News lasted nearly an hour, highlighting not only physical threats tied to the election, but also efforts by Russia and they're not letting the Russia thing go, and other foreign adversaries to convince Americans that the election results can't be trusted. Now, this is the FBI trying to gaslight Americans. They are trying to point out that Americans who don't agree with election results, something is wrong with them. However, we've seen running up to this week already lawsuits that have been cast, and they're granting these lawsuits. They're finding all kinds of irregularities out there. Chinese people who are being arrested who are not American citizens who have voted. They're finding people out there who have had 29 votes cast in their one name. They're finding all kinds of stuff out there, and they're acting on it. I give kudos to the Trump administration, or at least the Republican National Committee, for doing such a better job this year leading up to the election. Instead of just shrugging their shoulders and going, well, that's the way it is. No, they're capitalizing on this, and they're jumping on these things. So what they're doing is they're trying to discredit, the FBI is trying to discredit anyone questioning all this fraud going on out there. So you're literally watching the fraud happen. You're literally watching judges strike down this fraud and say that's not going to be allowed and that's not going to be allowed. But the FBI can't let it go. So the FBI is back there saying, if you're crying foul about the election, something's wrong with you and you are a conspiracy theorist. And, by the way, you might be a threat to the other Americans out there casting a vote who have full faith and confidence in the voting process. So don't question it is what they're saying. They're saying if you see something, don't say anything, because now we're going to label you with the little gold star on your shoulder or on your chest. Now you're a conspiracy theorist and you are the potential enemy. Now, quick story that I want to point out before I end this video. I was in Washington, D.C. Don't plan to go back. I was in there in 2022, late in the year, December of that year more specifically. And I was staying right across the street from the St. Peter's Church. You guys have seen this church, beautiful church, right there in downtown D.C. And it just happens to be right across the street from the Library of Congress. So me being bored, getting in a little bit early with my flight, I decided to take a walk, and I was staying at a hotel right in that nearby vicinity. So if you look down here at the bottom left, that's the St. Peter's Church, and just in front of that, along this entire roadway, and there's several buildings out there that would be Library of Congress, but this is one of the buildings of the Library of Congress on the left over here. Again, going across the street further up, you're going to find several more of the same buildings that are Library of Congress related buildings. It's not just one building is my point. There's several buildings in DC that make up the Library of Congress. So I was walking along this roadway and I happened to see these barriers that pop up from the concrete to keep vehicles obviously from being able to crash into the building, terrorists or whatnot. So I just took a picture, actually it might have been a video of one of them. And as I walked further down towards this corner over here, I crossed the street and there was a Metro police officer in this yard right near the corner. And the guy gave me ugly eyes, and I actually spoke to him and said, hey, how's it going? He did not acknowledge me other than looking at me and did not speak back to me. I walked down a little ways and then I turned around and walked back. As I walked back, I again spoke to him. Hey man, what's going on? He again acted like I wasn't there other than making eye contact. And I asked him, hey man, you okay? Because it kind of pissed me off. I'm thinking to myself, dude, I'm literally being cordial to you. You could at least nod, something. Well, when I asked him if he was okay, he came back with, are you okay? Like really confrontational. Are you okay? So the guy clearly had a problem with me, right? As I cross the street and get back to the other side of the road away from this guy, 2 Metro Police Department cops pull up. 2 of them. Little short fat guy gets out, comes up to me, stops me, asks me who I was and what I was doing. I said, I am a tourist and I stay right across the street over there at a hotel, and I'm walking. He says, is there any reason why you, or something along the effect that, could you tell me why you took video, why you were videoing the entrance to the Library of Congress over there? So they have me on video, videoing the driveway. And I said, I'm just taking video of it. I mean, why does anybody take video of anything around here? And I was not confrontational. I was not being a jerk to the guy. He said, can I see your ID? And I didn't mind giving him my ID. Then, well, first of all, before that, I acted like, what's the big deal? Like, I had the look on my face like, really, bruh? And he goes, well, you know, since January 6th, a lot has changed around here. These people have PTSD from January 6th. These are people who had nothing to do with January 6th, were not involved, more than likely, because I'm sure those people are getting a pension right now if they were involved in January 6th. Let's remember, no cops were killed or whatever on January 6th. Anything that happens, that somebody died, was after January 6th. So these people were not threatened in any kind of way. In fact, you'll remember they escorted people through the halls of Congress. But this guy clearly had PTSD. They have convinced all of these Metro PD officers that January 6th was an attack on them. And they're all still suffering from it. Like, they're all shell-shocked from it. And you could tell by looking in the guy's eyes that January 6th brought back some really tough memories for this guy to deal with. And again, we're talking about a little short guy that weighed twice what I did. I mean, completely out of shape. And believe me, there were other issues that probably had a lot to do with his high blood pressure. But clearly January 6th was a big deal to him. Then he tells me this. And this is the gospel truth. He asked me if he could take a picture of my driver's license. I promptly told him no. You cannot take a picture of my driver's license. Law enforcement can't do that. They can't. I don't care if it's his personal or his work phone. No, you can't. And I just told him, no, you cannot. I'll show it to you. And he goes, well, and this was a threat. This was a low-key threat to me. His response was, we can either take a picture of it and let you go now. I was not apprehended, by the way. Or we can call it in. And that's probably going to take a while. I said, call it in. You're more than welcome to look at it and call it in. I got nothing to hide. But you're not taking a picture of my driver's license and putting it on your phone. I'm not going to have a digital readout, a digital photo of all my personal information on your phone, and God knows where it winds up at. No, you cannot. And I was polite about it. But I was firm about it. You're not going to get a picture of my driver's license. And I followed him back to the car when he called it in, because he did call it in, to make sure this guy did not take a picture. And I think he was going to take a picture of it. Honestly, I do. Because he expected me to stay at the corner where he was questioning me, not to walk back to his cruiser with him. And again, there was another cruiser behind him, back up, for me. Redneck white boy is in Washington, D.C. We got problems. Yep, we got another one. So I walked back to his cruiser, and he did call it in, and it took a split second. This was a lie by him that he needed a copy. He wanted a picture of my driver's license because it did not take him. It probably was quicker for him to call it in than for him to have taken a picture of it. And who knows? My point is, Washington, D.C. is a dark place. Washington, and I don't mean weather-wise, I mean the mood. It's a place I don't ever want to be again. I don't like it. You can tell that there is a dark underbelly to it. You can tell that there is stuff. Remember the Hillary Clinton murders and things like that. There's stuff that happens in D.C. that nobody talks about. There's stuff that happens that nobody can explain away. I'm not talking about the rampant crime with the gangs over there. I'm talking about the political crime that takes place over there, the murders and the espionage and things like that. It's a real thing. Washington, D.C. is ripe with this kind of stuff. My reason for bringing this up is the officials in D.C., whether it's Metro Police, Capitol Police, anyone, they don't trust us. We are the enemy. People casting votes, to them, those are the bad guys. And God forbid you are on the right. I was so outnumbered when I was in D.C. because there's so many scumbags over there. I could not wait to get out of there. If I could have left that day, I would have. I had to spend the night there and leave the next day. So when you watch these guys perform these drills, they had all year to perform these drills. They're performing them 1 and 2 weeks out from the election. They're landing helicopters, taking off in helicopters. They're practicing extraction drills. They're practicing searching with spotlights. The biggest thing to understand about Washington, D.C. and the federal government is that the federal government is very reactionary, right? The federal government rarely plans accordingly. They do not plan properly. And in every step of the federal government, they react on things. So the fact that they are conducting this drill, they're expecting something to happen. Do you understand what I'm saying? If something does pop off, the government already is fully expecting it, and they're conducting drills as a result of it. Because again, they are super reactionary. They do not plan ahead well enough unless they know something is happening ahead that they're going to react to. They're not this prepared. They are preparing because I do believe, and I firmly believe this, and I don't know at what level of the government, I do believe there is something that may happen. You've heard senators, congressmen already say that they're not going to validate the election results if Trump wins. Jamie Raskin is one of them. These people are planning something. And I think that we all need to stay as far away from Washington, D.C., starting now and until well after Donald Trump is inaugurated. I do not think that place is a safe place to be. I would not sniff anywhere near there. In fact, if any of my friends or family are anywhere near there now, I would recommend getting as far away from the general area as you possibly can and don't wander around anywhere near the Capitol or anything like that. I think this is a dangerous place. I think that we're looking at a setup. I think members of the federal government, again, whether it be FBI or actual sitting congressmen and senators, are planning to disrupt election results once they start to come in. I think we will start to see some disruptions on Tuesday night, likely Tuesday morning, because you're seeing that there's a bit of a momentum swing, or at least the momentum is pushing pretty hard towards Trump right now. And I think you're going to start seeing these people say, okay, now, we've lost this thing. Now it's time for us to do something. Be careful, friends.
I don't understand the point that you're making.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America. He's over.